by the Mersey. And on foggy nights you would hear the foghorn interrupting my dad's stories. And it was because my dad was so imaginative that wherever I went, that imagination was inside me too. So if I stood by the great high-rise flats up on Queen's Drive, I didn't see high-rise flats. I didn't hear the cars going. I saw a castle. And instead of hearing the car going, I would be standing by Finn McCool's castle, the great warrior of Ireland. And there I would be seeing the sea. And there would be Finn McCool with his son, Oisín. And they would be looking out to sea, protecting Ireland. One day, when Finn and his son, who was not only a warrior but a poet too, were standing there looking out to sea, when Oisín, his son, who was not only a warrior but a poet too, said to his father, "Can you see what I can see, father?" And Finn said, "Yes, I think we have some invaders coming. We need to protect Ireland." And Oisín said, "Father, your eyes aren't working so well these days. Look again." And when Finn McCool looked again, oh no, it was no ship. It was a woman. It was a woman riding on a white stallion. And the waves were parting. And the woman was galloping through, her golden hair flying behind her. And she galloped through those waves, and then up the horse went and landed right in front of Finn McCool and Oisín. And that horse, well, it was glorious. Its hooves were silver and glistened in the sunshine. The saddle was studded with jewels. She was wearing a long red gown. She dismounted from that horse and stood next to the two men who bowed to her. Finn said, "How can we help you?" And the beautiful woman looked at them both, the father and the son, and she said, "My name is Niamh of the golden hair. I have come from the land of Tír na nÓg, the land of eternal youth, and I have come to find my husband. Then let us help you." "It's all right," she said, "I've already found him," and pointed at Oisín. How bold. Girls, you could try this trick in the future. It worked for her. Let me tell you, because Oisín, he looked back at her and he thought, "Ooh, she's very nice indeed. A beautiful hair. Ooh, that waist as slim as a fairy's." He was on the back of that horse, ready to go as quick as anything. And in fact, they were just about to ride off together when Oisín stopped. He looked back over his shoulder. He looked at his dad, his father. And this was the moment that happens to us all, you know. You know that moment when you have to say goodbye to your mum and dad because you've grown up? This was Oisín's moment. He said, "Goodbye, father." And Finn looked at him and Oisín said, "Father, goodbye, but I will be back." And Finn just looked and smiled and let his son go. And they galloped. That horse, it rode the air and then down through the water. And the water parted once again, and they galloped until it rode the air again. And they flew through the clouds for 3 whole days. And then they came to the land of everlasting youth. There were the great golden gates that opened now. And as they opened, Oisín could hear the most beautiful sound. There was a crowd of young people, no old people, because this is the land of eternal youth, all singing to them in harmony, welcoming them into their world. And there, in Tír were great golden castles, and there were fields full of flowers. The air smelled so fragrant, the birds chimed with song. It was wonderful. Oisín was happy. He now had a beautiful wife and anything he wanted. Well, all he had to do was think about it, and it was there. So, if he was tired, he would just begin to rest his head. And there would be a pillow stuffed full of goose feathers. If he was hungry, all he'd have to do was think about the food he wanted, and it'd be there in front of him. And he had a beautiful wife too. But you see, Oisín had been a warrior. He was used to adventure, and a few months passed, and to tell you the truth, he started to get a little restless. And there was someone that he missed too, his father, Finn McCool. He said to his lovely wife, "I miss my father. I'd like to go back to Ireland." And she said, "Now, my love, I love you so much. You can go, but take my steed, take my horse, and make sure that your body never touches Irish soil, for if you do, you will perish." He kissed her lovingly on the lips. He was on the horse and he was galloping through those golden gates, out through the clouds, down through the parting waves and up onto Irish soil. But you see, what Oisín thought had been 3 months had been 300 years in Ireland. And everything had changed. It was a darker, dimmer place. And when he found the castle, well, it was in ruins. He saw 4 men who were carrying a granite slab, and he called over to them and he said, "Excuse me, you men there, this was my father's castle. Do you know Finn McCool?" One of the men looked back at him and said, "Finn McCool, he died 300 years ago." His heart sank. "Anyway," they said, "you're a fine-looking fella. Come over here and help us." Well, he was dying to help. Of course he was. So he trotted over. But as he leant over, that granite was so heavy, the saddle girth snapped and he fell onto the floor. As soon as his body touched Irish soil, his blonde hair turned white. His soft, smooth skin became wrinkled. A long white beard grew. His eyes became rheumy and red, and his blue, shiny eyes now were milky and blind. His back was bent. His fingers were arthritic. He shrunk. He was an old man, gasping for breath. The 4 men, well, they looked at him and they felt pity for him. And one of the men picked him up in his arms like he was just a child, and he carried him into the church. And the priest in that church was no other than St. Patrick himself. And he put Oisín in St. Patrick's arms, and St. Patrick looked after him until he passed into another life. But during that time, the old Oisín whispered into Patrick's ears all the old stories, all the adventures of the Fianna and Finn McCool. And you know, St. Patrick, he took those stories and he told them. He told them to the monks, and he told them to the people, and the people told them to their children, and when the children grew up, they told them to their children, who grew up, and told them to their children, who grew up, and told them to their children, until they came to a little house in Liverpool where I lived, where a father, my dad, stood at the door and told us his stories. And now I pass them to you to tell again. Thank you.